Hello everyone and welcome back to Rapid Flow. My name is Eric and today I'm going to be showing you the live flow method in a lot of detail. This is the system that I've been teaching people in order to make tracks really fast using one of our templates. So let me take you over here and show you what we have going on here. So right now you're listening to a little loop that I made inside the Infinity bundle. My apologies that it's a little bit ravey, but I can tell on my weather app that the sunshine is slowly coming and I'm looking forward to springtime and summer. So it turned out like this. So you get your bearings. The whole workflow here works in session view, and you may say like, oh yeah, but this already exists, like this is what Ableton is made to do. I agree. However, I never actually figured out how to use it like this until I built this template. And I think that's really the power of this. So we have 8 tracks, and these 8 tracks are mapped to the first 8 tracks on the APC 40 Mark II, which is its default function. If you don't mess with it, that's where those tracks will be mapped. So that's the original basic starting point for this idea. As you see, there are a couple of tracks here that are available for me that I can interact with on faders that are not populated yet. What I recommend for this, to get started until you make it your own, is to use everything you find on the right here in the compose section and to build yourself the track idea using that. So assuming now, let's say I'd like to use, try to test a quick 16th bass or like a percussive type bass. I'm going to use this System 100 clone bass that I took out of this group. They'll find a bunch more in here. There's all kinds of other sounds that I've sampled here note by note, but let's take this one. And the way I've set this up is, this is actually being triggered by this nice Beatstep Pro, which I think is a really great workflow. So this was a note that I'd put in there, just to make sure that this thing is triggering tightly, and it is. So now I'm going to just transpose this down a few times. And now I could, for example, try to do like a bass line in this. Maybe let's try something kind of just rhythmic. So let me take you back. So the notes that it's triggering now are coming in here from the little Beatstep Pro. And I could grab this now, for example, and maybe shut this down a little bit. And as you can see, if I move this camera out of the way, there's already macros set up on a lot of the synth parameters to make, tweaking these kinds of things that you often need to get into a groove pocket a bit easier. Okay, what I usually do is that I will map one of these rotary encoders to the main 8 elements of the track as a high cut filter, which gives me a lot of control and then allows me to bring stuff in and out of the mix, you see? Break the bass. Or the kick. Which is actually also a really nice way to do build-ups and drops. So right now I have this bass sound being triggered, and actually I kind of like it. It's nice. I thought I was going to do something very different with it, but no, this is cool. So I go back to the template, and now that I have my bass sound dialed in, I'm going to go to my bass track, and this is where I'm actually going to be resampling whatever I've created in my, let's call it like my sandbox play section over here, and resample it into one of the first 8 tracks that are the ones that are easily controllable with the faders and everything. Here, set this to record monitor, and now I'm going to be capturing whatever sound I've created on this System 100 track here, right? Okay, and that's enough now. So now I can say, okay, cool, I have that locked down. And the cool thing about doing it this way is that now, whenever I reopen this live set, I'm going, where can I put myself here so I'm out of your way? Okay, so the idea here is that I'm going to keep this now locked into exactly how I want it in audio. Like I don't have to mess with this anymore. In the back, as part of the sounds that we give you in the Infinity Bundle in the Live Flow method. There's a whole bunch of samples that we made of all kinds of really nice hi-hats. And it's like, yeah, it's very, very easy to make nice hi-hat patterns with these. So I'm just gonna blindly just pop in a few notes. I'm gonna grab these here a little bit, pull the velocity down on them a bit, and let's have a listen. And the cool thing about these is that they're all pre-mixed. So like you can just experiment till you find something that you want. And the whole goal here is not to get too distracted with all the little technical details, but actually to focus on making your musical idea first. So you can just like transpose these hi-hats till you find something you like. That's got a nice swing to it. Okay, cool. So now we have these hi-hats over here, and I want to add some shakers to this also. So let's add a couple of shakers. Let's maybe try this one on a straight. It's cool. Okay, so now I have the shaker idea or element in here. And the next thing, well, actually what I would probably do now is resample these over into the correct tracks here. So in that case, this would be the percussion track. I'm going to grab audio from the shaker elements here. That's already enough for a quick demo, a quick loop. I'm not going to make huge variations here to get you through this also quickly, not waste your studio time. Cool. The other thing I would probably like to add to make this kind of a bit more interesting groove-wise is some toms. These are toms that I sampled off the Electron Rhythm Mark, what is it called? Mark II. Ooh, that one's nice and deep. Let's see if we can do something down here. I'm digging that. And let's see what that sounds like. So with toms, I am a little bit particular. I like to have a little bit of variation in these tom loops, otherwise I find them a bit too boring. Cool. So that would now be my tom idea, and I'm just using all these instruments that I have here as my quick source of proven pre-mixed sounds. All these sounds were recorded with all this nice outboard gear so that they would sit well in the mix. So back to the toms. I'm going to put these into the groove track, which is the track that is dedicated towards these kind of counter groove things. And here is my toms track. I'm going to set this to record. I'm going to grab it post mixer. That's fine. Let's go. Cool, so we have that. We only need that once like that. And again, I can switch this off now. And now I can mute this track as well. So already now I'm starting to get something that could be like a nice sort of beginning of a track idea. Let's have a listen. So when I started out with this little harmonic, springtime loop, I realized something that I was really hearing with it was going to be like a big fat standing bass, what do you call these, drone bass sound. And there is a sound for that in the sounds that we offer, which is this SEM drone, which is actually one of my favorite synths that we have also here in the studio. It was sampled off of this Telemark, which is a clone off of, it's like a Oberheim SEM type clone, but with faster envelopes, one of my favorite synths. So let me show you what that sounds like. Okay, let me try to see if I can play in the notes that I would imagine for this. Okay, so that would be the basic bass loop. And if you're wondering, why is this thing already sidechaining? There is a sidechain workflow set up throughout this whole template. So if you go over to this key section here, I have it twice now, you can just copy paste this anywhere and then you'll immediately have a sidechain anywhere in the set. This is being triggered off of this key, which is like a fourth pulse, a kick drum that's playing here. And apparently I'd used that already on this track at some point in some demo. And by the way, if you're wondering, this is that SEM synth sampled note by note so that it sounds identical to what it sounds like here in my studio. Okay, so now we have what could be like the beginning ideas of this track. However, I'm not really feeling this kick. I find it's a little bit too just like hard, and we have a whole bunch of super nice kick drums as part of this. And my current favorites, I'm on a bit of a Quayman phase. Just love how deep and also kind of mellow they sound. So let's have a listen to what it would sound like with that kick. And knowing that this is going to get tricky to mix as great as it sounds right now, I'm going to make this a little shorter. So good tip, if you know, a lot of these kicks are mixed also with the analog gear so that they're really big, but if you find they're overwhelming your low end, just shorten them a little bit with a fade out. And if you need more attack on one of these kicks, like if it's not cutting through like it's the case with this is a really nice little trick. Just do something sound engineering wise that's really wrong, which is don't start your sample on a zero crossing but a little late into the curve, because this is a really nice click for your kick. So yeah, now it's up front, it's cutting through. So this is the one way to do this, and normally now I should of course resample this into the first kick drum track. But in this case, and this is what I wanted to also show you, of course you can be flexible with this and move these tracks around, so that in this case I don't want to go through all the trouble of that, because I prefer actually to use the kicks separate on this one track here. So I've just moved them around now, and now I have the first fader mapped here to this kick drum channel. And now I kind of have already enough of a sort of like a basic sort of sketch thing that I could use to start turning this into a track idea. And this is the part now I can close all this compose stuff. Well, actually, we're probably going to need a snare also, right? That's always useful in dance music. So I'm just going to copy one from up here quickly. Again, there's a whole bunch of snares here. Let's have a listen. Okay, well, it's done. That sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map these faders now to the setup of my controller that I have in my brain. And this is going to be different for everyone, because I use two controllers. If you're using only one APC, that's the default setup here. But I'm going to map this now in a way that all this stuff makes sense to my brain, because I like to make things simple for myself. So what I started doing now is I have dedicated faders on my desk using also this little APC, which is why I recommend a workflow of these two controllers. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the template and mapping everything to the dedicated faders that I have. where all this stuff is already labeled and my brain just knows, like, that's always where the harmonic element is, that's like that. This is always where, actually, you know what? Hang on a second. Okay, now you can see better. Okay, cool. So, for example, this tom track here, I'm going to map it to this groove fader, which is always controlling my toms. This fader is always controlling my bass. This fader is always controlling my kick. We don't have a lead sound in this yet. My snare is mapped and my hi-hat's going to be mapped here. Here I have a shaker, which I'm going to map to this percussions fader. Cool. Now I am in a position to play this track idea and start sequencing this and turn all this into a track idea. And even though it's very basic, there's only one harmonic component in it, it's enough for this demo for me to give you an idea of how this live flow method works. So before I go into the sequencing part, just to summarize, I would recommend you to use this like your sandbox where you can play over on the right side and just create all kinds of cool sounds. You'll find a ton of really nice analog bass synths here sampled note by note. You'll find a whole bunch of super nice analog kick drums with and without processing, toms, snares, hi-hats, shakers, you name it. So all the basics are there to get your track started, as well as, of course, all the processing, which is our mastering chain, and the super channel effects, which is what I'm going to show you now. All this stuff already comes pre-mapped so that when I'm starting to make my sequence, I can control all this stuff immediately. And what these are like DJ effects, but for production. So combined with the mastering chain, you come to a situation where you can actually then, once you have your basic musical idea down, start to create your arrangement in real time. And that's the bit where the combination of having a mastering chain, live performance effects, and sounds that are all pre-mixed to work together and sound good is where it gets super powerful. So the way I usually do this is that I will look for a good starting point where I feel like, okay, this is the way this track should flow to begin. So let's just listen and see. And what I have on the floor here that maybe you can see if I switch to a different camera is a little foot switch. And what this is connected to is the super channel on this, which is my DJ effects, and when I press this little foot switch, I can bypass those. So what this allows me to do is do really complex swells and stuff, but come back to a clean sound when the drop is, so when the kick starts again. Okay, so let's make a first track sketch of this in real time, and this is the part that's actually where sequencing becomes really fun and where we get into this live flow method. Pretty cool. There was a lot of things there that I liked. So now I can go back to this idea. And as you can see, everything I just did on the fly is tracked in here, of course, as automation. And if I was late, maybe bringing in a kick somewhere or something like that, which I wasn't in this case, but if I was, it's a super easy fix. But I now can just press play again, and I have my first rough outline of what could become the intro for this track. Cool, so I hope that this has given you a first idea of just how easy and fun it can be to do electronic dance music, techno, house, whatever. I mean, the sounds in the whole mix in this is very versatile. If everything that you have already to do your basic idea of the track is already there, pre-mixed and sampled from really nice instruments and sounding good together, and all you have to do is come in here and start just coming up with your idea. And then of course the bit where it gets saucy is you have to add cool harmonies, hooks, leads, vocals, whatever, atmos. That's why there's no leads or hooks or anything like that from us. We just do the drums and the basics and the basses. All the synths are there, like 14 analog synths, but we leave all this juicy stuff up to you, because this is, I think, where really like the personality can really shine through, and what you do with this. We thought that would be the smart place to help you get an amazing mix and loud starting point. So actually what I haven't even shown you is how well mixed this is. If you have a look quickly over here on the spectrum analyzer. So this is set to Spotify. When this starts going into the red, it's like maximum sort of average loudness of most of the tracks that go to Spotify. And this plot here shows your frequency, and generally speaking you want this to sort of start your low ends there and then drop down to about here 2 lines later. Let's have a look. So yes, welcome to the live flow method. I hope this was interesting to see. Really great starting point for your productions. All the sounds work together. They're pre-mixed as a mastering chain, live performance effects, and this whole workflow that I've just shown you in order to make your tracks in real time using controllers, have a lot more fun in the studio, and in the end, finish more tracks while enjoying the process in the usually quite limited time that we all have available for this, right? If like me, has a family, I have a company or like a job, and you're busy and you want to find a way to actually use your time in the studio to really create tracks and not just be fiddling about with EQs and compressors and stuff, this is a really great way to start, I think. So I hope this is useful to you, and I look forward to your feedback in the comments. This is the Infinity Bundle plus Masterclass that you can grab on rapidflow.shop. All right, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.